Agenda. I think it's a really important evening this evening because it's Councillor Shaw's last time as an executive member. Tom's been on the executive or chairman or chairperson or whatever for about 40 years. So I think it's probably a great achievement, Tom. And I think thank you for behalf of the council, but also for the people of Luton, for all the work you've done much work over those 40. No, I know you haven't. I'm trying to keep him with you, Tom. Now you're not going to be on the exec. Yeah. Okay, I'll move on to the agenda now. We haven't got any apologies this evening. We have. Umi's not here. Do we know if she's apologised? No, so she'll probably come in later then. Published record of the meeting. There isn't one this evening. Okay. Remind members of section 106. Also of disclosures of interest. And I think we've got an item not covered by the current forward plan, which is the LBC corporate performance report. And over to you, Rob.
Thank you, Chair. This is the LBC Luton Borough Council corporate performance report for Q3 24-25. The purpose is for the corporate performance report compiles and presents both quarterly and annual service data, which allows performance to be monitored and discussed at CLMT, overview and scrutiny, and executive prior to headlines being published to staff and citizens. A brief summary is that 44 measures are green, 4 are amber, and 16 are red, which shows that overall performance is good and improving. I just want to outline some highlights, if I may. The number of homeless relief year to date has exceeded the target. The percentage of hospital discharges within timescale social care assessments completed within 40 days figure is above target. The number of London Luton Airport passengers year to date is on target. The timeliness of benefits, new claims and changes are both within target levels. The timeliness of council tax reduction, new claims and changes year to date are on target. Adult social care, financial assessments, debt recovery is on target. Adult social care, financial assessments, timeline to process charges figure is above target. Number supported or amount awarded with discretionary housing payments is within target levels. Amount awarded with a household support grant is within target levels. Percentage of attendance in state-funded primary and secondary schools are both on target. Percentage of children attending good and outstanding schools, primary, secondary and special, including looked after children, are all on target. Percentage of housing stat compliance completed within timescales are all within target levels. Percentage of corporate stat compliance completed within timescales are all on target. Amount of council tax collected is within target. Council tax billing percentage of work outstanding over 20 days year-to-date figure is also on target. Number of apprenticeship starts is on target. Employees and senior employees of an ethnic minority background as a percentage of our workforce aiming to reflect our communities year-to-date figures have both reached target levels. Number of children looked after is within target. Complaints relative to the size of the landlord, stage 1 and stage year 2, year-to-date figures are on target. Number of affordable new homes completed year-to-date is also on target. Number of children subject to child protection plan is on target. The number of newly approved foster carers approved per quarter year-to-date figure is also on target. Total business rates due and total business rates collected in millions is within target. Unemployment claimant county court has met the 0.25% decrease quarterly target. The recommendations in front of the executive. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Rob. Are there any questions? Everybody happy to approve? Thank you very much. We now move on to business not covered under special urgency, which we have none. And I have a reference from scrutiny, but I'm going to take it with option 8, which I think is referred to the same report. We have no recommendations from scrutiny, no petitions, and we now move on to item 8. So I would ask the rep from scrutiny, please, to move the recommendation.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to thank you, Chair, and the members of the Exec for the opportunity to present the views and recommendations of the Scrutiny Children's Services Review Group regarding the proposed changes to the Council home to school and college transport policies. The group thoroughly reviewed and deliberated upon the consultation responses and the detailed proposals provided by the officers. The discussions highlighted several significant concerns which led the group to conclude that the proposed changes should not be supported at this time. To summarise the key concerns that were raised, in the responses, families expressed a strong concern over the impact of introducing the personal transport budgets, particularly given the proposed parental contribution of £450 per annum. Members emphasised the need to ensure that this does not create undue financial hardship for families, particularly those who may not be eligible for the 16 to 19 bursary. The parental responses contained in the survey results indicated that the parents considered the changes would have a significant impact on the funding they currently received to transport their children to school or college. Members did not consider that either the report or the information that would go out to parents were sufficiently robust to address those concerns at this stage. In relation to the independent travel training, the consultation response feedback indicated considerable apprehension about pupil safety and well-being, particularly for SEND pupils. Though the feedback indicated that some pupils may benefit from such an approach, any participation in the ITT initiative it suggested should be purely voluntary and supported by robust safety assessments with sufficient support provided. To improve, two-way communication and clarity, members were concerned that the wording of the proposed policy and communication to families did not adequately reflect nor reassure parents about the impacts and practicalities of the proposed changes, particularly regarding the definition and implications of the meaning of the nearest suitable school. The report didn't cover a system for effectively tracking how consultation feedback would be acted upon, or the concerns raised, how they would be mitigated. A two-way communication with consultees to ensure their concerns are satisfactorily resolved by the mitigating actions are suggested. Therefore, we urge the executive to reconsider the proposed changes in their current form, enhance the clarity and strength of the communication in any future policy documents, and to reassure families that their children's educational access and financial circumstances will be safeguarded. To establish a robust system for tracking feedback to transparently reflect stakeholder concerns in policy revisions, and ensure that any proposals involving financial contributions and travel independence training are backed by thorough and clear guidance along with adequate support mechanisms, and to provide explicit and comprehensive details about the support available to families, particularly those with EHCPs and disabilities. We encourage the executive to reconsider these proposals and return with revised recommendations addressing the fundamental issues to ensure that any changes are equitable, transparent and supportive of the community's needs. There is concern that implementing these changes in their current form with an emphasis on only statutory provisions would be at odds with the Council's 2040 vision, which explicitly commits that no child should be left behind, and to ensure an inclusive and equitable access to education fundamental to achieving that vision. So I'd like to move to the...
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Do you want to move the item 8 and deal with the recommendation from scrutiny?
Yes, thank you, Chair. So this item is in relation to the proposed changes to the Council's home to school and college travel assistant policies. As we all know, demand for travel assistance is continuing to increase, and the number of pupils requiring travel assistance is expected to double between 2020 and 2030. Whilst the council has increased the transport budget, it continues to be an area where the council is overspending. And it's just not us. There are obviously councils up and down the country that are facing similar problems. Earlier today, we were honoured to have the Secretary of State for Education pay a visit to Denby Primary School to launch the Free Kids Breakfast Clubs initiative, where obviously I relayed concerns of not only us, but obviously peers up and down the country, and relayed that, we do need support from the government on that. So hopefully there should be something in the pipeline on that. But nevertheless, we are where we are at this moment in time. Now, this proposed policy changes should ensure that there's a greater number of pupils who can be supported in different ways within the constraints of the council's budget. The proposed policy offers personal transport budget to those eligible for transport assistance who are not compulsory school age. This provides significant additional flexibilities for families to facilitate travel arrangements. So independence, that's really important. And the draft policy sets out the process for considering council organised transport for families in exceptional circumstances. I note that the concerns raised by the Children Scrutiny Review Group. Firstly, I do note that obviously it was rejected, but obviously if I am allowed to say this, it was obviously rejected by members of the opposition. And second of all, the concerns that were raised around the tone and empathy of the proposed suggestions in relation to the policy, I don't think the officers can clarify this for me, that they will actually saw a copy of the policy. No, they didn't. So, but nevertheless, officers and I have ensured that the draft policy is clear. It contains sufficient information about independent travel training schemes, personal transport budgets, and where parents do what they should do if their cases are exceptional. And I take on board the point around tone, empathy of the proposal, and ensuring that, this obviously goes to our 2040 vision of ensuring that everyone has access to education and no one is left behind. So my recommendation to colleagues would be to note both proposals.
Okay, thank you very much. The recommendation is to note the recommendation for scrutiny and agree the recommendation of item 8. Are there any questions? Tom?
I just don't want to fall out with your veer over this, but I think you can accept the first part of the recommendation. The second part is, I don't think you can, is today all 3 ward councillors from Chorley got an email, case what we fetched up 2 or 3 weeks ago, were completely dissatisfied with the consultation, accused the council of predetermination on the consultation. What was going to happen was going to happen. And we only got the email today, all 3 ward councillors, saying they've offered that person a face-to-face meeting to try and discuss his problems and what he saw wrong with the consultation. So how can we accept the consultation when we haven't had the meetings yet with the people what were complaining about the consultation? Those meetings haven't happened yet. And if any officer wants to see the email, all 3 of us got it. And it's just saying, we understand you've got concerns, but we raised that matter 2 or 3 weeks ago. And the emails have only gone out today.
So in regards, if it's the same individual, they obviously did participate in the consultation, they completed it online, but obviously I will let officers respond to the remaining bit, because do you want to come on the other bits?
Just to say that the consultation was run by an independent organisation. And it took feedback both at face-to-face events and also online. We had a number of parents and also people put forward their reviews and responses through a survey. And all that's been collated by the independent organisation, and all the comments made are also included in the pack in an annex there. In relation to the individual that we're talking about, I reached out to that individual last week and have been waiting for them to get back to me. I think an email might have gone out today explaining that we've made contact, tried to make contact, but I did try to create contact at the beginning of last week as soon as it came to my attention, but I've had no response.
You have had a response today of him. I've got a copy of the response.
Unless it's come through in the last hour.
Yeah, I got a copy of the response of him. He's works from home on Friday. His response says, and he's quite happy to meet you on a Friday. The response is there. It's been there.
Well, that must have come back in the last hour because I've been at work all day today, but in a meeting the last hour.
Okay, well, we'll deal with that outside of this
I can
meeting.
deal with that.
Then,
I
yeah?
can.
He's not the only one that's come to the surgery. All three of us are here, and we've had more than him at the surgery.
All I can say in relation to that is that the consultation ran events and people had the opportunity to find out more about the proposed changes and then also to put their responses and their views forward in a survey. And all these responses have been collated independently of the local authority. And all those responses have been shared both at scrutiny and I think are in the back of the report today. And I think the points that are being made by some individuals are not being necessarily made in the same way in their responses to the survey itself, because I don't see that we've got a lot of detail in relation to some of the points that have been made subsequently. But I think, I feel quite happy because I've been was there at one of the face-to-face events, and I was very happy in the way that the officers conducted themselves by using those to try and talk with individuals about what the changes were, but not making any decisions or saying you'll be eligible or not, but encouraging people to have their say and to put their feedback through the survey return, which I'm hoping many of them did.
Okay, that's it.
Just looking at the data here, I don't know if anybody's able to answer, but what are officers doing to understand what's behind the steep rise in the number of EHCP plans and what's being done to mitigate against that? Is it in line with what other local authorities are seeing as well? Is Luton an outlier?
Sorry.
I was just wondering if officers have conducted work to find out what's behind the steep rise in the number of EHCP plans in Luton, and if it's in line with other local authorities and what the causes behind it are.
Oh, I can certainly answer that. And Lisa, my expert next to me, will be able to corroborate this. We're seeing nationally an increase in educational healthcare assessments. It's not just in Luton, it's elsewhere. So ours have been rising at a significant rate, certainly post-COVID. And I think some of those, we've seen an increase in children diagnosed with social, emotional, mental health issues, and also neurodiversity, autism. But that's not something that is unique to Luton. It's something that's happening nationally. And so these pressures are happening not just within our local authority, but in all local authorities regionally and also across the country as well. And what we're trying to do is to make sure we get the early intervention there in place to try and support the parent at the earliest point. But that increase is coming through. What I would say is that we do a very strong triaging around individual cases as to whether they need an EHCP or whether their needs can be met through the normal mainstream provision. And when we agree to assess a young person, then those assessments generally, in almost all cases, will lead to an EHCP because we do a very strong assessment in the first instance. I don't know, Lisa, whether you want to respond?
Yeah, I think actually data analysis shows that there's actually been an increase in the number of EHC needs assessments since the reforms in 2014. So actually it is around actually better identification of SEND and that more collaborative approach to supporting children and young people through EHCPs. So and the increase that we have in Luton is mirrored nationally and within the Eastern region. So we're not unique in seeing that increase in the number of plans. And I think what we're able to see from our analysis actually that in Luton, the increase in the number of EHC needs assessment requests is primarily in stage 1. So children are having that really high level of support in our maintained resource nurseries. And actually then as they're going on into school and the expectations of the curriculum increases, those requests are coming through.
Okay, now, are there any other questions? The recommendations are to note the report from scrutiny and to agree the recommendation item 8. Is that approved? Thank you. We now move on to item 9, the Luton Adult Learning Accountability Statement.
It's me again, Chair.
You again, yeah.
My show today, I think. So this is basically a recommendation to exec colleagues to endorse the Adult Learning Services Accountability Statement as required by the Department for Education, and to instruct officers to submit the report to the Department of Education.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions? No questions? Is it agreed? Agreed, sorry. Agreed. Thank you very much. We now move on to item 10, the Employment Skills Plan Annual Report.
Yeah, me again, Chair. Thank you. So this annual report details actions and achievements towards Luton Employment and Skills Implementation Plan 2022 to 2027. And we're asking the executive to approve the publication of the 2024 annual report. The background is that the Employment and Skills Plan has 4 strategic priorities. First, skills driving economic recovery growth. Second, developing a pipeline of talented and resilient people. Third, tackling long-term inequality, economic activity. And 4, creating an adaptable, upskilled workforce. So to achieve the aims we have within the 2024 period, firstly, open Morton House, a new skills hub for and innovation and business hub for Luton Council, and a new construction and engineering centre at Barnfield College. Number 2, incorporated stimulation-based training into the healthcare curriculum at both Barnfield College and the University of Bedfordshire to address current challenges in healthcare recruitment and retention. This helps to equip students for high-pressure environments and contributes to the NHS long-term workforce plan. Third, held community jobs fairs across 12 wards, which 2,000 residents attended. We continue to focus on supporting economically inactive women, particularly from the Southeast Asian community, to help and support them enter the labour market by offering ESOL and family learning courses in school, and have supported 248 women from the Southeast Asian community last year. In this regard, with regards to the community jobs fairs, one of the things that I have asked the team to do is to track usability. So basically, whichever residents attended the jobs fair, how helpful they found it and how it assisted them with their onward journey. So that will be a good way to monitor progress and see whether or not the aims and objectives of those community jobs fairs serve their purpose, or if we need to do anything differently. And fourthly, increased apprenticeship starts and achievement. We held the first Luton Apprenticeship Awards, and we're developing an apprenticeship brokerage hub. But these are some of the highlights for the 2024 period. Obviously, the work is by all means not finished, but we are making progress, but there is still a lot more that needs to be done. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Javeria. Are there any questions on the report? Yeah.
Sorry, on the community jobs fairs, I mean, it'd be good to have more data and statistics on how effective they are and how we're measuring outcomes, because at the moment, for over many years, I mean, even when I was in school, this predates any current portfolio holders, but we have jobs fairs. They're seen as a tick box exercise by some in the community, and there's no data on how are we measuring outcomes? How are we measuring how many of these job fairs have actually resulted in concrete offers of employment for the residents in Luton and young people in Luton?
So if I can take that point, that's obviously exactly what I talked about when I talked about measuring outcomes, because as far as I'm concerned, it isn't a tick box exercise, but obviously equally at the same time, it's important that we monitor the residents who attended, what their backgrounds were, and what outcomes they achieved and how the jobs fair assisted them. And if they don't serve their purpose, what alternative things we can do. Because if the jobs fairs aren't working, then obviously we've got to look at alternative things. But I have asked officers to monitor that closely, and we will be bringing a report forward to executive at some point to let you know.
Okay, thank you. James? All right. Okay, sorry, Debbie.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. So just on that point, that's an absolutely valid point. So thank you very much. One of the things that we have been doing is we have been doing surveys with all of those who have attended. So after each one, we have got an analysis of why people came, what they were looking for, how useful they found it. And what we are doing now, and this is what Councillor Hussain was just referring to, We've engaged an organisation that specialises in surveying from an educational perspective, and they are now going to be looking at those outcomes. So they're going to be doing this piece of work within the next couple of weeks, and then we will be bringing that back. So absolutely, we must make sure that we measure that impact, and that is happening, and we will be bringing that as a further agenda item.
Okay, thank you, Debbie. Are there any other questions, Tom?
Javert might be able to answer. I thought we were going to get a report back on the amount of needs in the town, especially on the council estates. I can't see any record of it anywhere, because they're the people we should be aiming a lot of these appendices at. That kind of, when are we actually going to see those figures? Do you know? I thought they'd be in this report.
Okay.
No problem at all, young Javert.
Thank you so much, Councillor Shaw. You being so kind to me on your last exec meeting. We are gathering that data, and that data will be made available. But having said that, I can reassure you, we're not going to leave them behind. We're not going to forget about them. And they are very important when it comes to not only the education refresh strategy, but also with employment and skills refresh strategy. Debbie, you want to touch on some of the things that we have started doing with regards to the NEETs?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. So we are in the process of gathering that data. We're working really closely with Paul Wagstaff and his team in terms of what we can do to support our NEETs. We are with our Connect to Work funding that is coming from DWP. One of the areas that we are looking at is our young people who are at risk of going into serious crime and our care leavers, and that's a particular focus. And then what comes after that, so in July, as a region, we will need to submit a delivery plan for Get Britain Working, and there will be a huge focus there on our NEET and those particular target groups that we want to support moving forward. So as Councillor Hussain absolutely said, we're not leaving anybody behind. We absolutely want to focus where that funding then allows us into those areas where those people are more significantly disadvantaged than others. But thank you for the point, because it's absolutely well made.
To add one to, I mean, I can understand where you're going, and I welcome the way we're going. But now the government has decided, thankfully, that they don't need the maths in English GCSEs to be able to go on to construction college and everything else. That is going to be a massive help with a lot of them people. But we don't need to reinvent the wheel, because you've already got ACE and connections, and they know most of these youngsters anyway. I can't, you know, I'd like to see them a major part of any consultation about needs, because you'll never have a better group of people will probably know every single one of them in the town, and they're doing a good job with them. So, you know, it works. Something they do actually works, and I don't know what it is whether it's the type of people they employ, whatever, but whatever they do works, and they can get through to some of the youngsters what won't necessarily come and talk to, no disrespect to council, professional council officers. And I just hope you'll include ACE and connections in it.
So absolutely, and this isn't about reinventing the wheel at all. It is about that collaborative working space. So one of the examples with ACE on that is the Construction Skills Hub. So where it was on the DART site, and it's now moved to ACE, and how we are utilising that space to drive some of that construction skills through young people, and then channeling them through to Barnfield once they've gained more confidence, etc. So absolutely, that collaboration is key. And of course, everybody will be sitting around the table for those discussions, and already are.
Okay, anybody else? Are we happy to approve the report then? Thank you very much. Can I move on to item 11 and the Bedfordshire Local Nature Recovery Strategy?
Thank you, Chair. The executive is recommended to approve the draft local nature recovery strategy for public consultation as set out at Appendix A. Excuse me. Bedfordshire Luton's natural environment is one of its greatest assets. It provides natural resources that are important for health and well-being, helps build strong communities and supports the local economy. However, the environment is facing pressure as the climate warms. Bedfordshire is in the middle of a biodiversity and climate crisis, and these two issues are closely connected. Nature is essential for tackling climate change and improving health, so there is a need to focus on restoring and protecting nature. It is urgent that action is taken quickly and in new ways if nature is to remain part of life. Local nature recovery strategies are new plans that are a key part of the government's environmental improvement plan. These strategies aim to create a larger, stronger and better connected network of wildlife habitats across England. This includes promoting the creation of woodlands, creating wildlife-rich grasslands in the Chilterns, improving rivers like the Lee and providing nature-rich green space for people and nature in urban areas. LNRS focus on the most important action needed to protect nature in Luton and the surrounding areas of Bedfordshire. This strategy explains what the natural environment of Bedfordshire is like, how it is to be shaped by both people and wildlife over time, and the challenges it faces. It also highlights the value of nature in Bedfordshire for local communities and the economy. A healthy environment helps reduce flood risks, provides clean air, pollination, and spaces for people to enjoy, which benefits both physical and mental health. As responsible authority for the Bedfordshire LNRS, Central Bedfordshire Council have requested comments on the draft strategy and confirmation that the sporting authorities of Luton Borough Council, Bedford Borough Council and Nature England are happy to proceed with the public consultation. Policy Group and OSB have reviewed the strategy and recommended improvements to accessibility such as increased font size and are reviewed. In addition, OSB have also highlighted the importance of Bedford's chalk streams and their inclusion in the LNRS. Comments from Luton Borough and the fellow sporting authorities will be reviewed by Central Bedfordshire before finalising the draft for public consultation. Thank you.
Thank you. David, are there any questions on the report? Are we happy to approve? Thank you very much. Can I take the statement, Regulation 4